As dawn broke, the jungle slowly woke up, the sunlight filtering through the leaves. Zor looked at his friends, their faces pale but determined. They had been tested in ways they never expected, and they had emerged stronger. Captain Reed gathered them once more. You faced your fears last night, and came through as a team. Remember this lesson. The jungle is not just a place of beauty, but also of danger. Always respect it. Zor nodded, feeling a newfound appreciation for the challenges ahead. They were becoming more than just students. They were explorers, united in their quest to uncover the mysteries of the jungle. With the dawn bringing a sense of hope, Zor felt ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they would face the challenges, respect the secrets, and learn from the jungle that had become their classroom. The Feast of the Dithworlders. With the dawn breaking brightly over the jungle, Zor and his classmates felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The encounter with the beast had left them shaken, but it also fueled their determination to explore further. Captain Reed, noticing their renewed energy, gathered them for the day's adventure. Today, we'll venture deeper into the jungle, he announced, his voice filled with enthusiasm. I've heard tales of the Dithworlders and their unique feast rituals. It's time for you to witness one firsthand. The students exchanged curious glances. Zor's heart raced at the thought of seeing these mysterious beings. He had only heard stories about them, powerful creatures capable of surviving in the harshest conditions. What do they eat? Leela asked, her eyes wide. Anything that lives in their territory, Reed replied with a grin. But they have a particular taste for the large monsters that roam these parts. Today, we may get to see one of their feasts. As they trekked through the thick underbrush, the air buzzed with energy. Zor felt the heat of the sun on his skin and listened to the cacophony of the jungle. Birds sang overhead, and the scent of damp earth filled his nostrils. Every sound made him feel alive. After walking for some time, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a large gathering of Dithworlders, their imposing forms towering over the smaller jungle creatures. Zor felt a rush of awe and fear as he observed them. Their skin was a mix of vibrant colors, with intricate patterns that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Look at their strength, Nix whispered, his eyes wide. They're enormous. Captain Reed nodded, pointing to a massive creature in the center. That one is the leader. Watch closely. This is where the feast will take place. As they watched, Zor felt a mix of respect and fascination. The Dithworlders began to chant, their voices deep and resonant. It was a rhythm that echoed through the jungle, creating a sense of unity among them. Then, with powerful movements, they brought forward a massive carcass, a gigantic space monster. Zor's stomach churned at the sight, but he was unable to look away. The Dithworlders worked together, showcasing their strength and teamwork as they prepared for the feast. They hunt and gather as a community, Reed explained quietly. This feast is not just for survival. It's a celebration of their strength and unity. As the Dithworlders tore into the meat, the jungle filled with the sounds of their powerful roars and the crackling of bones. Zor could see the joy on their faces as they shared the bounty with one another. The sight was both gruesome and mesmerizing. Why do they feast like this? Leela asked, still observing the scene in awe. It's part of their culture, Reed replied. Every meal they share reinforces their bonds and reminds them of their survival in this harsh world. Zor watched as the Dithworlders feasted, their camaraderie evident. He realized that their strength came not just from their size, but from their unity. It sparked a thought in him. Teamwork was vital, whether among humans or these extraordinary beings. As the feast continued, Zor felt a surge of courage. Can we get closer? He whispered to Reed. I want to understand them better. Reed considered for a moment, then nodded. We'll approach slowly, but remember to be respectful. We are guests in their world. The group moved closer, careful to remain hidden. Zor's heart raced as he drew near the gathering. He could hear the Dithworlders laughing and celebrating, their eyes glinting with joy. It was a moment of connection, and he felt honored to witness it. Suddenly, one of the Deathworlders turned, its piercing gaze locking onto Zor. Time seemed to freeze as the creature approached, its massive form looming over him. Zor's breath caught in his throat, but he stood his ground, meeting its gaze with determination. To his surprise, the Deathworlder sniffed the air and let out a low growl, not of aggression, but of curiosity. It tilted its head, studying him with an intensity that made Zor's heart race. "Stay calm," Reed whispered, watching the interaction closely. The other Deathworlders paused, turning their attention to Zor. He felt a wave of anxiety wash over him, but he focused on the creature in front of him. This was a moment of connection, an opportunity to understand a being from a world he had only imagined. Then, to Zor's amazement, the Deathworlder lowered its massive head, allowing him to reach out and touch its fur. The texture was rough but warm. Zor's heart swelled with a mix of awe and respect. "This is incredible," Zor murmured, feeling a connection he never expected. "They're not just monsters. They have a culture." Reed smiled, seeing the bond forming between Zor and the creature. "Exactly. They're survivors, just like us." The other Deathworlders watched with interest, their growls softening as they observed this exchange. Zor felt a surge of confidence. He had stepped beyond fear and into understanding, bridging the gap between their worlds. After a moment, the Deathworlder stood tall again, letting out a rumbling roar that echoed through the clearing. Zor felt the sound vibrate in his chest, a sign of acceptance. The jungle erupted with life as the other creatures responded, joining in a chorus of calls. As the feast continued, Zor turned back to his friends, excitement coursing through him. "This is what we came for, to learn and connect." Captain Reed nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "You've done well, Zor. This experience will stay with you forever." As they stepped back to observe, Zor realized that this was just the beginning of their adventure. They had discovered the strength of the Deathworlders, not just as powerful beings, but as a community united in survival and celebration. The jungle, with all its dangers and wonders, was a place of connection, a living tapestry of life that taught them valuable lessons. Zor felt more determined than ever to uncover the secrets of this world, knowing that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The first encounter. Inside the dark cave, the crew huddled together, their hearts still racing from the terrifying encounter with the alien beast. The distant growls echoed outside, reminding them of the danger lurking just beyond the cave's entrance. Captain Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Okay, everyone," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We need to assess the situation. Dr. Lin, can you check your equipment? We may need to collect data on this creature." Dr. Lin nodded, her hands shaking slightly as she fumbled with her tablet. "I've been recording everything," she said, her eyes wide. "But this is the first time I've seen a creature like that. It was massive. I've seen plenty of aggressive aliens in my time," Sergeant Reynolds said, trying to sound confident. "But that one was different. We need to be careful moving forward." Outside, the growls faded into silence, and Sarah took the opportunity to glance at the entrance. "Let's move out cautiously. We can't stay here forever." They made their way out of the cave, stepping into the cool evening air. The jungle around them was eerily quiet, as if the creatures were aware of their presence. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. She was determined to keep her team safe, but they had to learn about this alien world and its inhabitants. As they ventured further into the jungle, Dr. Lin began to take notes. "If we can gather enough data on the ecosystem here, we might understand why that creature was so aggressive," she said, excitement creeping into her voice. "Just keep your eyes peeled," Reynolds warned. "We don't want to surprise another beast like that." After walking for a while, they came across a clearing. The ground was covered in strange, glowing plants that pulsed with light. It was beautiful and otherworldly, but Sarah remained cautious. "Stay alert," she reminded the team. This may be a feeding ground for those creatures. Suddenly, they heard a rustling sound nearby. The team froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. From the shadows, another creature emerged. This one was smaller but still imposing, with sharp claws and a long, slender body. It sniffed the air, its yellow eyes locking onto the humans. "Back away slowly," Sarah instructed, her voice barely above a whisper. As they retreated, the creature seemed to lose interest and moved away, disappearing into the underbrush. Sarah sighed in relief. That was close. "Do you think it's dangerous?" Dr. Lin asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Probably," Reynolds replied. "But we need to study these creatures. Understanding them is our best chance of survival." They continued exploring the clearing, taking samples of the glowing plants. Dr. Lin examined them closely, her scientific curiosity overpowering her fear. These could have incredible properties, she mused, jotting down notes. They might be useful for medicine or energy sources. As the sun began to set, the jungle transformed into a landscape of shadows and eerie sounds. The team decided it was time to return to their ship. They made their way back, but as they walked, the atmosphere grew tense. The jungle felt alive, and the team couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly, a loud crash came from behind them, followed by the unmistakable roar of the larger creature they had encountered before. Panic set in. "Run!" Sarah shouted, adrenaline kicking in as they sprinted through the thick underbrush. Branches whipped against their faces as they raced back to the ship. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them, growing closer. Sarah could feel the ground shaking beneath her as the beast pursued them. "Stay together," Reynolds yelled, pushing the team forward. "Don't look back." They burst into the clearing where the Endeavour stood, its sleek form a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. But as they reached the ship, they realized the creature had followed them. It charged, its massive body barreling through the trees. "Get inside," Sarah shouted, quickly hitting the control panel to open the ship's hatch. The team scrambled into the ship, hearts racing as they reached the safety of the interior. Reynolds slammed the hatch shut just as the creature collided with it, shaking the entire ship. The sound of claws scraping against metal filled the air. "Seal the doors," Sarah ordered, her voice urgent. She quickly activated the ship's defenses, locking everything down. "Is it going to break in?" Dr. Lin asked, her voice trembling with fear. "Not if we hold it off," Reynolds replied, gripping his weapon tightly. "We need to show it that we're not a threat, but also that we can defend ourselves." The creature continued to roar outside, and Sarah could feel the ship vibrating from its strength. She glanced at the monitors, watching as the alien beast paced around the ship, its eyes filled with anger and curiosity. "Maybe it thinks we're a threat because of our weapons," Dr. Lin suggested. "If we could find a way to communicate." "That's risky," Reynolds interrupted. "What if it attacks?" "We have to try," Sarah insisted. "We can't survive by just using force. We need to understand this world, and that means understanding its creatures." Taking a deep breath, Sarah turned to the communication panel. She knew they had to find a way to bridge the gap between human nature and the wildness of this alien planet. With a determination fueled by hope, she prepared to make contact with the creature outside, ready to explore the depths of human nature and the power of overkill. The power of communication. Inside the Endeavour, Sarah felt the tension in the air as the creature continued to pace around the ship. Its growls were deep and resonant, echoing in the cramped quarters. The team was silent, their eyes fixed on the monitors showing the alien beast outside. Sarah knew they needed to act fast. "Okay, everyone, listen up," she said, her voice steady. "We need to try and communicate with it. Dr. Lin, I want you to prepare the translator. If we can find a way to understand each other, we might prevent further aggression." Dr. Lin nodded, her fingers trembling as she worked on the translator device. "It won't be easy. We have no idea what language it speaks or if it even has one." Reynolds frowned. This is a dangerous gamble, Captain. What if it doesn't respond well? We don't have much choice, Sarah replied. If we don't try, we'll always be seen as a threat. We need to learn more about this creature and its environment. As Dr. Lin adjusted the settings, Sarah turned her attention to the view outside. The creature had stopped pacing and was now sitting on its haunches, its bright eyes studying the ship. There was a strange intelligence in its gaze that made Sarah hope they could establish a connection. "Ready?" Dr. Lin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Let's do this." She activated the communication system and stepped to the hatch. "Hey, we mean you no harm," she shouted, hoping the creature could understand her intent. "We want to learn about you." The creature's ears perked up at the sound of her voice. It tilted its head, showing curiosity rather than aggression. Sarah felt a flicker of hope. "Let's try a non-threatening gesture," Reynolds suggested. He slowly raised his hand, palm open, showing he held no weapons. Sarah followed suit, and Dr. Lin stood beside them, mirroring their actions. The creature's growls softened as it observed them. It slowly approached the ship, sniffing the air. Sarah felt her heart race. This was their chance. "Keep talking, Captain," Dr. Lin urged, adjusting the translator. "We need to get it to understand us." "Okay," Sarah said, her voice steady. "We are explorers from another planet. We are curious about this world and want to learn. We don't want to fight." The creature continued to inch closer, its eyes locked onto Sarah. It seemed to understand that they were not a threat. The tension in the air began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of cautious hope. Dr. Lin activated the translator, which emitted a series of soft peeps and whistles. "Let's see if this works," she said, her excitement evident. The creature paused, its head tilting to the side as it listened to the sounds. Suddenly, it let out a low growl that transformed into a series of melodic sounds, echoing through the jungle. The sound was both beautiful and haunting. "Can it understand us?" Reynolds asked, his eyes wide. "I think so," Dr. Lin replied, her fingers dancing over the controls. "It's trying to communicate." "Let's respond," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. "I'll try to mimic its sounds." She took a deep breath and let out a series of soft growls, imitating the creature's melodic sounds. The creature's eyes widened in surprise, and it responded with a series of beeps and whistles, almost as if it were laughing. "Keep it up," Reynolds encouraged. "It seems to like it." As Sarah continued to mimic the sounds, the creature began to mimic her in return. It was a dance of communication, each trying to understand the other. The atmosphere shifted from tension to excitement, and the team felt a wave of relief wash over them. Dr. Lin smiled. "This is incredible. We're establishing a form of communication." After several minutes of vocal exchanges, the creature sat back on its haunches, seemingly satisfied. It tilted its head and let out a low, rumbling sound, almost like a purr. "What do you think it means?" Reynolds asked, glancing at Dr. Lin. "I think it's trying to say it's friendly," Dr. Lin replied, her excitement palpable. "But we need to gather more data to be sure." Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment. "Let's take it slow. We don't want to overwhelm it. We need to show that we are not just humans from another world, but explorers willing to learn." The creature moved closer to the ship, and Sarah could see it clearly for the first time. It was covered in dark, sleek fur with bright markings across its body. Its eyes were intelligent, showing a depth of understanding that took Sarah by surprise. "We should see if it will lead us somewhere," she suggested. "It might show us more about this world." Dr. Lin nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "We can learn about the ecosystem, the other creatures, and how they interact. This is our chance to gather valuable data." "Okay," Reynolds said, gripping his weapon tightly. "But we have to stay alert. We don't know what else is out there." "Agreed," Sarah said. "But we're going to make this work. Let's show them that human nature can be more than just survival instincts. It can also be a quest for understanding and connection. With renewed determination, Sarah stepped out of the ship, signaling to the creature. It looked at her, then turned and began to walk deeper into the jungle. The team exchanged glances, hearts racing with anticipation. Together, they would explore this new world, guided by the power of communication and the hope of friendship, discovering new wonders. As Sarah and her team followed the creature into the dense jungle, the sounds of the endeavor faded behind them. The air was thick with the scent of rich earth and vibrant plant life. Colorful flowers bloomed all around, and the canopy overhead filtered the sunlight into dappled patterns on the ground. The creature led the way, its fur glistening in the filtered light. It moved with grace and confidence, stopping occasionally to sniff at plants or listen intently to the sounds around them. The team remained cautious but curious, their eyes wide with wonder. "Look at this place," Reynolds exclaimed, pointing to a tree with bark that shimmered like metal. "It's incredible." Dr. Lin took notes furiously, capturing every detail. "This is unlike any ecosystem we've ever seen. The biodiversity is astounding." As they walked deeper into the jungle, the creature paused and turned to face them. It emitted a series of soft clicks, almost like it was inviting them to come closer. Sarah felt a surge of excitement. They were being accepted. "Stay alert, but let's observe," Sarah whispered. The team moved closer, their hearts racing. The creature gestured with its head toward a clearing ahead. In the clearing, they saw something remarkable. A group of strange, colorful creatures were gathered around a large pool of water. The creatures looked like a mix between fish and birds, their scales sparkling under the sunlight. They fluttered above the water, occasionally dipping down to take a drink. "What are those?" Reynolds asked, his voice filled with awe. "They look like they're feeding," Dr. Lin noted. "This could provide vital information about the food chain here." Sarah nodded, watching the interaction. "Let's observe their behavior. We can learn a lot from watching how they interact with each other and their environment." The alien creature beside them seemed to sense their curiosity. It let out a low hum and began to move toward the pool. The team followed closely behind, eager to learn more. As they approached, the colorful creatures noticed them and began to flutter around nervously. "Easy now," Sarah said, raising her hands to show she meant no harm. "We're just here to observe." To their surprise, the alien creature beside them stepped forward, its presence calming the fluttering creatures. They seemed to recognize it, settling down as it approached the pool. The team watched in amazement. "This is incredible," Reynolds whispered. "It's like it's their protector." Dr. Lin activated her translator, trying to capture the creature's sounds. "I think it's forming a bond with them. It understands their behavior." As they watched, the creature began to communicate with the colorful beings, its melodic clicks harmonizing with their soft chirps. The air was filled with an otherworldly symphony, a language of sound that spoke of trust and connection. "Can you imagine the complexity of their communication?" Dr. Lin said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. They could have their own culture. Sarah felt a swell of pride for the creature they had encountered. It wasn't just a predator. It was a guardian of its realm. "This is what we came here for. We wanted to learn. And now we're witnessing something extraordinary." After a while, the colorful creatures began to calm down and approach the team. They fluttered around curiously, their eyes shining with interest. The alien beside them stood tall, seemingly proud of its new friends. Reynolds took a cautious step forward, extending his hand. "Hey there," he said softly, trying to make himself seem less intimidating. One of the colorful beings flitted closer, touching its beak gently against Reynolds's fingers. His eyes widened in surprise. "It's interacting," he exclaimed. "It trusts us." Sarah grinned. "We're making progress. This is amazing." Dr. Lin quickly took notes, capturing every moment. "This could redefine our understanding of alien life. These creatures have emotions, relationships, and a sense of community. As the team engaged with the creatures, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. They had come to explore, but they were also building connections that would transcend their differences. After spending what felt like hours observing and interacting, the alien creature that had guided them stepped back. It emitted a series of chirps, and the colorful beings responded, their wings fluttering in a beautiful dance. "What's happening?" Reynolds asked, watching the display. "I think it's signaling them to go," Dr. Lin replied. "Maybe it wants to show us something else." With a sense of anticipation, Sarah and her team followed the alien deeper into the jungle. The lush foliage thickened around them, and strange sounds echoed through the trees. Every step felt like they were entering a new world filled with wonders yet to be discovered. As they walked, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. They were witnessing something extraordinary, a glimpse into a life beyond their own. She knew this was only the beginning of their journey. "Whatever happens next," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination, "we'll be ready. We are explorers at heart, and we will uncover the secrets of this world together." With the creature leading the way, Sarah felt a sense of excitement building. They were not just observing. They were part of something bigger. They had crossed a bridge of understanding, and she was eager to see where it would lead them next. The unexpected challenge. As the team ventured deeper into the jungle, the atmosphere grew denser with mystery. The vibrant flora surrounded them, each plant more extraordinary than the last. Sarah felt exhilarated, sensing they were on the verge of a groundbreaking discovery. Suddenly, the alien creature, which they had grown to trust, paused and emitted a series of low, throaty sounds. The team exchanged glances, aware that this was a signal. Sarah stepped closer, curious about what the creature had sensed. "What's wrong?" she whispered, her eyes scanning the shadows of the trees. The creature pointed its head toward a dark thicket ahead, its body tense. The team fell silent, straining to hear any sounds that might give away the presence of another life form. "I don't like this," Reynolds muttered, shifting uncomfortably. "What if there's something dangerous?" Dr. Lin shook her head, her face focused. "We can't turn back now. We need to see what it is. It could be another species, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." With a nod of agreement, Sarah led the way, carefully stepping through the thick foliage. The tension in the air was palpable, but her curiosity pushed her forward. As they moved closer, a low growl echoed from the thicket, sending a shiver down her spine. "What is that?" Reynolds asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know, but we should be ready for anything," Sarah replied, pulling out a small device that emitted a low light, illuminating the area ahead. As they reached the edge of the thicket, they saw what was causing the growl. A massive creature stood protectively over a nest filled with small, squirming beings. The creature resembled a cross between a bear and a reptile, its scales glinting like armor under the dim light. Its eyes narrowed as it caught sight of the team, a menacing growl rumbling in its throat. "Back away slowly," Sarah urged, sensing the danger. But the alien creature they had been following stepped forward, its posture confident. It emitted a series of soft clicks, trying to communicate with the guardian beast. Sarah watched in disbelief as the larger creature's growl softened, and its stance relaxed slightly. "Is it trying to calm it down?" Reynolds asked, his voice filled with astonishment. "Yes," Dr. Lin exclaimed. "It's showing that it means no harm." The team watched in amazement as the alien creature continued to communicate, its melodic sounds echoing through the jungle. The guardian creature's eyes flickered with curiosity, its growls replaced by a cautious interest. "Let's stay quiet and observe," Sarah whispered, feeling a sense of wonder. They were witnessing a moment of diplomacy between two species. After a few tense moments, the guardian creature finally lowered its head, indicating acceptance. The alien creature turned back to the team, its body relaxed, signaling that it was safe to approach. "Let's move carefully," Sarah instructed, her heart racing with excitement. They inched forward, mindful of the nest and the protective beast. As they drew closer, they noticed that the small beings in the nest were not just random creatures. They appeared to be the young of the guardian beast. The team exchanged glances, understanding the gravity of what they were witnessing. "This is a family," Dr. Lin whispered, her voice filled with awe. "We're seeing the nurturing side of this species." Sarah felt a wave of warmth as she realized the depth of their experience. They were not just explorers, they were witnesses to the intricate relationships of life on this alien world. It was a powerful reminder of the bonds that existed in all creatures, no matter how different they might be. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the jungle, and the guardian creature snapped to attention. Its protective instincts kicked in, and it let out a fierce growl, its eyes fixed on the source of the noise. "What was that?" Reynolds asked, alarmed. "Something is approaching," Sarah replied, her heart racing again. "We need to be ready." The team quickly took positions behind the alien creature, which stood firm, prepared to defend its young. The growls grew louder, and the sound of heavy footsteps could be heard, shaking the ground beneath them. Out of the shadows emerged another large creature, even more intimidating than the first. This new beast had sharp claws and a menacing grin that revealed rows of jagged teeth. It was clear that it was not here to make friends. "Everyone, stay back," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her. The alien creature emitted a series of urgent clicks, urging the guardian to defend its nest. The two creatures faced off, tension thick in the air. The team held their breath, uncertain of what would happen next. In an instant, the new creature lunged forward, its claws slashing through the air. The guardian responded instinctively, placing itself between the intruder and its young. The jungle erupted in chaos as the two beasts clashed, their roars echoing through the trees. "Come on, we need to find cover," Dr. Lin shouted, pulling Reynolds and Sarah behind a large tree trunk. As they crouched down, watching the fierce battle unfold, Sarah's heart raced. This was not just a struggle for survival. It was a test of nature's balance. They were mere spectators in a world filled with danger and beauty. "We can't interfere," Sarah whispered, knowing the weight of the moment. "This is their world, and we are only guests." With the jungle alive with the sounds of battle, the team understood that they were witnessing a primal struggle for life. They could only hope that the guardian would protect its young, proving that even in the wild, love and determination could prevail against the odds. As the fierce fight continued, Sarah felt a deep connection to the creatures around her. This planet was alive with stories, and she was determined to learn them all. But first, they had to survive the challenges that lay ahead. The aftermath of battle. The clash between the two massive creatures filled the air with roars and the sounds of ripping flesh. Sarah and her team remained crouched behind a large tree trunk, their hearts pounding as they watched the battle unfold. The guardian creature fought fiercely, defending its young against the fierce intruder. The intensity of the moment made Sarah feel both exhilarated and terrified. "Do you think it can win?" Reynolds whispered, his eyes wide with fear. "We can't think like that," Dr. Lin replied, her voice steady. "This is nature's way. They're both fighting for survival." Just then, a deafening roar echoed through the jungle, shaking the ground beneath them. The intruder had struck a powerful blow against the guardian. The team gasped as they saw the guardian stumble back, but it quickly regained its footing, determination etched on its face. "Look," Sarah pointed. The guardian creature had positioned itself between the intruder and its nest once more, a fierce protector. The intruder, sensing that its prey was guarded, let out a frustrated growl. It circled the guardian, looking for an opening to strike. The tension was thick as the two creatures faced each other, ready to engage again. "This is unbelievable," Reynolds said, eyes glued to the scene. "It's like watching a primal dance." As the fight resumed, Sarah's mind raced. She thought about how this moment reflected the struggles of survival, not just for these creatures, but for every species in the universe. It was a harsh reminder of the reality of life, brutal yet beautiful. Suddenly, the Guardian launched itself at the intruder with surprising speed. The two beasts collided with a force that sent shockwaves through the ground. Claws slashed, and teeth snapped as they struggled for dominance. The team could hardly breathe as they watched, knowing that every moment could be the turning point. "Do you think we should do something?" Reynolds asked, worry in his voice. "No," Sarah replied firmly. "Intervening could make things worse. We're not equipped to help them. We need to let nature take its course." With her words, Sarah felt a mix of resolve and helplessness. She wanted to protect the Guardian and its young, but she knew their role was to observe, to learn from this alien world. The battle raged on, and it was both terrifying and mesmerizing. Finally, in a dramatic twist, the Guardian found an opening. With a powerful leap, it brought its weight down onto the intruder, causing it to stumble. In that moment, the Guardian's strength shone through, showcasing the power of a protective parent. The intruder roared in anger and pain, but fought back fiercely. It was a fight that seemed to stretch on forever, with each creature refusing to back down. But slowly, the tides began to turn. The Guardian, fueled by instinct and a fierce desire to protect its young, launched a series of calculated attacks. Just when it seemed the intruder might win, the Guardian managed to land a decisive blow, knocking the intruder to the ground. The jungle fell silent as the two creatures paused, panting heavily. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe the Guardian would prevail. But as the intruder struggled to rise, it looked at the Guardian with a new understanding. Instead of attacking again, it turned and bolted into the dense foliage, disappearing into the shadows. The Guardian let out a triumphant roar, echoing through the jungle, signaling its victory. The team let out a collective sigh of relief, their tension melting away as they realized the battle had ended. They stepped out from their hiding place, cautiously approaching the Guardian, who was now protectively circling its nest. "That was incredible," Reynolds breathed, still in shock from the display of power. "I can't believe we witnessed that." Dr. Lin nodded, her eyes shining with admiration for the Guardian. It fought for its family. That's a testament to the bond they share. As they moved closer, the Guardian turned its head towards them, its eyes now softer and more curious. The team stood still, respecting the creature's space. The atmosphere had changed. They were no longer intruders in its territory, but fellow witnesses to a moment of life and death. "Look at the young ones," Sarah said, pointing to the small creatures nestled in the nest. They were trembling but safe. The Guardian settled down, resting beside them, its protective nature evident in the way it washed over them. "We should document this," Dr. Lin said, pulling out her equipment. "This is an important part of the ecosystem we need to understand." As the team began recording their observations, Sarah felt a swell of gratitude. They had not only witnessed a fierce battle, but had also learned about the deep connections that existed in the animal kingdom. "This is a vital lesson in nature," she reflected. "It shows us that even in the face of danger, love and determination can prevail." As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the jungle, the team gathered their notes and prepared to leave. The jungle was alive with sounds, a reminder of the life that thrived in this wild place. "We need to report back and share what we've seen," Reynolds said, looking around at the vibrant surroundings. "This will change how we view these creatures." "Yes, it will," Sarah agreed, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They had come to explore and discover, but now they had a deeper understanding of the planet's inhabitants. As they made their way back through the jungle, the team carried with them not just notes and recordings, but also a profound respect for the powerful bonds of family and the harsh realities of life. The experience would stay with them forever, a reminder of the beauty and brutality of nature and the power of overkill that was, undeniably, human nature, the legacy of the Guardians. As the team made their way back to the ship, the events of the day lingered in their minds. Each step through the lush jungle felt heavier, filled with the weight of what they had witnessed. Sarah led the way, her heart still racing from the adrenaline of the battle between the Guardian and the intruder. She couldn't shake the image of the fierce protector, standing tall against all odds. When they finally reached the ship, they were greeted by the familiar hum of its engines. Dr. Lin immediately set to work uploading their findings to the central database, her fingers flying over the controls. The data they had gathered was vital, not only for their research, but also for understanding the complex ecosystems of death worlds. "Did you get everything?" Reynolds asked, peering over her shoulder. "I can't believe we saw that fight." Dr. Lin nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. "Every moment. We have video footage of the battle, the Guardians' behavior, and even the reactions of the young ones. This will change everything we know about the species. Do you think anyone will believe us?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed in thought. "What we saw was incredible, but it sounds almost unbelievable." "They will believe it when they see the footage," Dr. Lin assured her, pausing for a moment to meet Sarah's gaze. "This is not just about proof. It's about respect for these creatures and their way of life. We have a responsibility to tell their story." As the team prepared to leave the planet, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. They had spent so much time observing the Guardian and its young, forming a connection with them in a way she hadn't expected. She glanced back at the dense jungle, wondering what would happen to the Guardian now that they were leaving. Would it continue to protect its young? Would the intruder return? "Hey, don't be sad," Reynolds said, noticing her expression. "We've learned so much. Think of the impact our findings will have." "I know," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. "It's just, I feel like we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to learn." Once they were safely aboard the ship, Dr. Lin initiated the launch sequence. The engines roared to life, and the ship began to ascend into the sky. As they broke through the atmosphere, Sarah took one last look at the planet below, the vibrant greens and browns fading into the distance. "Set a course for the research station," Dr. Lin ordered, her eyes focused on the control panel. "We need to analyze our data and prepare our presentation for the council." The ship leveled off, and the crew settled in for the journey back. Sarah found herself lost in thought, reflecting on the battle they had witnessed and the lessons it had taught them. Nature was both beautiful and ruthless, a constant struggle for survival that was not unlike their own existence. When they arrived at the research station, they were greeted by their colleagues, eager to hear about their expedition. The team wasted no time in sharing their findings, the excitement palpable in the air. "You won't believe what we saw," Reynolds exclaimed, recounting the battle in vivid detail. The room was filled with gasps and murmurs as they revealed the raw footage of the Guardians' fight. "That's extraordinary," one of the researchers said, eyes wide with disbelief. "I've read about similar creatures, but witnessing that is something else entirely." As they presented their data, Sarah felt a surge of pride. They were not just observers, they were storytellers, advocates for the creatures of the death world. Their mission had evolved into something greater, an opportunity to raise awareness about the delicate balance of life in the galaxy. Days turned into weeks as they worked tirelessly to compile their research into a comprehensive report. Each member of the team brought their unique perspective, contributing to a narrative that would educate and inspire. When the day finally came to present their findings to the council, Sarah stood before a large audience of scientists, officials, and fellow explorers. Her heart raced as she glanced at the screens displaying images of the Guardian and its young. "Today, we share a story of survival," Sarah began, her voice steady but passionate. "A story of a creature that embodies the spirit of a protector, fighting against all odds to safeguard its family. What we witnessed was not just a battle, it was a testament to the power of nature and the bonds of life." The room was silent as she spoke, captivated by her words and the footage. Sarah could see the impact her message was having. This was more than just a presentation. It was a call to action, urging everyone to recognize the importance of preservation and respect for all life forms. As she concluded her presentation, the audience erupted into applause. Sarah felt a swell of emotion. Gratitude, hope, and determination. They had done more than document their findings. They had sparked a conversation about the value of all living beings. Later, as the team celebrated their successful presentation, Sarah reflected on the journey they had taken. They had arrived on a strange planet seeking knowledge, and they were leaving with something far more profound, a deeper understanding of life itself. "Here's to the Guardians." Reynolds raised his glass, a grin on his face. "May they continue to protect their young and thrive in their world." "Here's to them," Sarah echoed, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. They may have left the death world behind, but the legacy of the Guardians would live on in their hearts and minds. In that moment, she understood that their mission as explorers was not just to discover, but also to honor the stories of the worlds they encountered. The universe was vast and filled with wonders, and they were determined to share every tale, especially those of the fierce protectors of life.